Every single day, millions of barrels of oil travel across oceans, cross international borders, and power everything from airplanes to factories. It is the fuel that keeps the modern world moving. But hidden behind this massive global trade is a rule so powerful that most people never stop to question it. Imagine India wants to buy oil. Imagine China wants to buy oil. Imagine Germany, Japan, or Brazil wants to buy oil. You might assume they can simply pay using their own currencies, but that's not how the world works. Before most countries can buy oil, they first need to get their hands on US dollars. Think about that for a moment. Why should countries thousands of miles away need America's currency just to purchase energy? How did the dollar become so important that an entire planet depends on it? And more importantly, who decided this rule in the first place? Because the answer isn't just about oil. It's the story of how a currency became a global superpower.
To understand how the dollar gained such extraordinary influence, we need to travel back to a very different world. A world where paper money wasn't trusted by itself. Back then, the strength of a currency depended on something tangible: gold. Under a system known as the gold standard, countries could exchange their dollars for a fixed amount of gold held by the United States. In simple terms, every dollar represented a promise. A promise that somewhere inside American vaults, real gold existed to support it. This arrangement created confidence. Nations trusted the dollar because they trusted gold. As long as America had enough gold reserves, the system worked smoothly. But there was one problem. The United States was beginning to spend far more money than its gold reserves could support. And that imbalance was about to trigger one of the biggest financial turning points in modern history. By the late 1960s, warning signs were appearing everywhere. America was funding expensive military operations, investing heavily overseas, and expanding government spending. As a result, more and more dollars were entering circulation. There was only one issue. Gold reserves weren't growing at the same pace. Imagine a bank issuing thousands of claim tickets while holding only a few hundred items in storage. Eventually, people start asking questions. And that's exactly what happened. Countries around the world began exchanging their dollars for gold. One by one, America's gold reserves started shrinking. The situation became dangerous. If too many countries demanded gold at the same time, the entire system could collapse. The United States suddenly faced a challenge that threatened its financial leadership. How could it maintain global trust in the dollar if it could no longer back every dollar with gold? The answer would reshape the global economy forever.
In 1971, a historic decision was made. President Richard Nixon announced that the United States would no longer exchange dollars for gold. Just like that, the connection between the dollar and gold was broken. For the first time, the world's most important currency stood on its own. Many people expected confidence in the dollar to collapse. After all, if dollars were no longer backed by gold, why would countries continue holding them? America needed a replacement, a new source of demand, a reason for the world to keep using dollars. Without one, the dollar risked losing its position at the center of global trade. What happened next wasn't an accident. It was a strategic move that would transform oil into the foundation of modern finance. At the time, Saudi Arabia was one of the most important oil producers on Earth. The world needed Saudi oil, and that gave Saudi Arabia enormous influence. The United States saw an opportunity. A partnership began to emerge. The arrangement was simple but incredibly powerful. Saudi Arabia would sell its oil exclusively in US dollars. In return, America would provide military cooperation, security support, and economic partnerships. On the surface, it looked like a normal agreement, but the consequences were enormous. Because if Saudi oil required dollars, every country that wanted that oil would first need dollars too. Suddenly, demand for the dollar wasn't connected to gold anymore. It was connected to energy. And energy was something the entire world needed every single day. Now the system began to feed itself. Countries needed oil. Oil required dollars. Therefore, countries needed dollars. Governments accumulated dollar reserves. Banks increased dollar holdings. International businesses conducted transactions in dollars. The more global trade expanded, the stronger demand for dollars became. It was a self-reinforcing cycle. Oil created demand for dollars. Demand for dollars strengthened the American financial system. A stronger financial system increased global confidence. And that confidence encouraged even more countries to use dollars. Without firing a shot or forcing anyone to participate, the dollar gradually became the world's dominant currency, not because everyone loved the dollar, but because everyone needed oil. This is the part many people misunderstand. The real power of the petrodollar system wasn't simply about oil. It was about creating constant global demand for a single currency. Every nation needed energy, and as long as energy was priced in dollars, the dollar remained at the center of global commerce. That gave the United States unique advantages. It could borrow more easily, trade more efficiently, influence global financial markets, and maintain a level of economic power that few nations could match. The dollar wasn't dominating because it was backed by gold. It was dominating because it had become deeply embedded in the everyday functioning of the world economy. And that's a much more powerful position. But history never stands still. Today, several countries are exploring alternatives. China is promoting greater use of its own currency. Russia has reduced its reliance on dollars. Members of BRICS have openly discussed trading using local currencies. The question is no longer whether alternatives exist. The question is whether they can realistically replace a system that has operated for decades. Can the world move away from the dollar? Or is the petrodollar system too deeply connected to global trade? Nobody knows for certain, but one thing is clear. The story of oil and the dollar isn't just history. It's a story that is still being written right now. And the next chapter could reshape the future of the global economy.
If you found this story fascinating, subscribe for more videos that break down complex financial topics into simple, powerful stories. Because behind every currency, every market, and every economic headline, there's always a deeper story waiting to be uncovered.